Hey, I'm Tommy, and this is the Lightroom photography workflow series that I like to get into. These ones are going to be more kind of like just add-ons to the big series that I did like a few weeks back. Um, and this time we're going to talk about Lightroom catalog creation. So, not much has changed since Lightroom has evolved over the years in terms of catalog creation. So, we'll go through like a nice proper setup on how to do it, and also some like extra little tips and tricks of methodology that I like to do to keep my files managed and organized on different hard drives in different catalogs. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy it, and let's get right into it. All right, so we are in my default catalog, which is my incoming catalog. It's the one that I always start out with whenever I'm working on photos. Um, this is kind of important to do, in my opinion. Lightroom itself, or Adobe rather, says do not create multiple catalogs because it can, you could lose track of your photos or figure out, get confused and whatever. But honestly, I don't know a photographer that has only one catalog. They always have multiple catalogs. It's very helpful to like separate this out. One of the biggest benefits of doing multiple catalog creation is it'll keep Lightroom working at the fastest that it can go, because obviously the more files you put into the catalog, the more Lightroom can get bogged down. Kind of like when you fill up the hard drive on your computer, it's going to take a lot longer to open up a file that used to open in a couple seconds because there's too much stuff that the computer has to deal with. Same thing with Lightroom. So Lightroom catalog, making multiple creations of this catalog, is actually really helpful for organization and also for speed. So we're going to try to make this as fast as possible. I might get a little long-winded. And while I'm talking about this stuff, before I do anything, you could, enjoy my new Miami skyline photo that I just took last week that I'm pretty excited about. So that's why this is showing up right now. But I just kind of want to use this as like a little example for a quick start of the description of what is a Lightroom catalog to begin with. A Lightroom catalog is simply a database of where your photos are represented. So it just points to the photo itself. It doesn't actually do anything with your photo. In fact, the only real control Lightroom has on your photos is if I took this file and I physically moved it somewhere here, it would take in the background the photo itself and move it to one of those folders that I specified. That's it. That's all it really does. So what I mean by this is you can look in the develop module here and let it load up here. Wow, it's going to take a second to load. But you can see all of my, there it goes. You can see all of my edits on the side here, including that new point color tool that they added recently. That's really fun to be able to work with. I kind of removed as much orange from these buildings that this old, like the last little bit of the sunset was casting onto here. So it was fun to play with that. But if you really look at the original photo, which if you hit the slash key in the develop module in Lightroom, you get to see what Lightroom is actually looking at when it looks at the photo. This is the photo straight out of the camera that's on my hard drive right now. This is the database manipulation that I personally did to this photo. Whatever keywords I added to it, whatever edits on this develop module panel that I did, are all applied. Even the masks are all applied in the data of the Lightroom database. So this is what the photo looks like on my hard drive. This is what it doesn't. This is what I did with it in Lightroom itself. Otherwise, so let's open up the Finder really quick, which is, Explorer in Windows. And this is the photo itself. And you can just see it's just a normal DNG raw file of a pano that I finished. If we went into editing here, you could see CR3 files. These are my regular straight out of the camera files, and they do not have any manipulation on them. It's only when I go to the incoming catalog itself, you'll see this data here. This is where all of these edits and stuff get stored. Unless you specifically specify you want XMP files, then you'll get it stored both in this data and it'll be stored in a separate file called an XMP file, which is kind of these sidecar files, as they call them, kind of allow you to go anywhere with them into other programs and still have the same edit values applied that you did in Lightroom, because the data and the XMP are just, representation values in that file of what you wanted the photo to look like. So it's kind of hard to explain that, but I just know that everybody commonly says, oh, I'm pulling photos into Lightroom. Oh, I'm taking photos into Lightroom. Oh, I'm, bringing photos into Lightroom. All of those phrases, you're not actually doing that. You put the photo yourself onto the hard drive, right? You physically put them on the hard drive, whether you use the import dialog that copies them off the card onto here, or you manually took them off the card yourself and put them here and then hit import photos, add to catalog without moving. All of that, the photos go right here, and then Lightroom will then give you a previewed representation of that file that you then play with. You add keywords, you manipulate in the develop module like I did here. You do all that stuff. So that's just one I want to kind of clear up, is a lot of people say, oh, Lightroom's terrible because I put too many photos in it. And you're like, no, you didn't. Maybe you have your previews need to be optimized, or you need to, have a smaller catalog file. So that kind of helps me segue into like the benefits of having multiple Lightroom catalogs is it'll keep Lightroom working at the fastest it can go. Because the more files you put into a catalog, the more Lightroom can get bogged down. Right? So I said that. And you don't want to have so many catalogs that you lose track of where your photos are, but that's definitely a helpful thing to have. So let's go ahead and just go right into how to export a catalog and how to make a new one. So there's two ways to do a new catalog. There's the export as a new catalog, and there's the create a new catalog. First things first, we'll do create a new catalog. That's just in File, New Catalog. And when you hit that, you'll just get a normal dialog. We'll just go to the hard drive that I'm in. And you're gonna want to, you can just right now save it directly to this hard drive, which is a good one. What it does is it makes the folder for you. So let's just say example of the catalog, right? And it's going onto this hard drive. That's the name that I'm making. When you hit create, what's going to happen is Lightroom's going to close out this catalog. We'll skip this right now. This is just backing up the catalog file for me of the incoming catalog, but we'll get to that later. It closes it out. Then it's opening a new catalog, and my new catalog is example of the catalog, right? You'll see here LRCat. That's the file extension for Lightroom catalogs. It says example of the catalog, that's what it is, and obviously you have nothing in here right yet, so there's nothing data-wise represented. If we went to where I put it, which was, let's see, right here on the, oh yeah, here it is, example of the catalog. It made this folder for me. When I hit here, you can now see, here's my catalog file, example of the catalog, LRCat. From here, I have full control. I can make new folder and say photo, wow, I can't spell. I can't type right now. Photo example, right? And I could put photos in here. And then I could say this catalog, when I open this catalog up and I go in the import dialog, say this catalog is going to look at these photos in photo example. So that's kind of it for creating a new catalog. You don't have to do anything else. You have this brand new catalog, everything's ready to go. If I wanted to move stuff in here from a different catalog, I actually go into a lot of detail in my episode 4 of the Lightroom Workflow series that I have. But what you're going to do is go File, Import from another catalog. And when you hit this, it'll give you a dialog. You choose what catalog that you want to take the photos from. In this case, we'll take it from here, from this catalog. See, there's the LR cat, so you know that's the right file. Choose that. You get this little dialog that pops up. And then you could choose what photos that you want or what folders that you want, and then add it. And it'll show up here a representation on the photos. We get into that in the 4th video, so I'm not going to do that right now. But let's go back into my incoming catalog. So we're just opening that catalog really quick. Boop. And it'll close out the example catalog that we have. It'll open up this one here. Boop. And of course, we can do things like customization of catalogs. So I'll go into that in real quick before I do the export one. And you can do things like, if you do edit preferences for Windows or Lightroom Classic preferences for Mac, you could change in the general tab here when starting up what catalog to start up with, right? Or just have it say, hey, ask me every time which catalog do I want to open. Or in my case, I have load most recent. So the most, for the last one I just put up is the best one, right? And then of course you could just do things like specific things, treat JPEG files next to RAW files as separate photos, etc., etc. You could have sounds play when it's opening or when it's importing or whatever. So it's pretty cool. And then with that customization, there's also the fact that you can do another one called catalog settings, which also has edit catalog settings for Windows or Lightroom Classic catalog settings for Mac. And this tells you like that backup schedule that I saw in the pop-up, which what I would recommend is just have it like whenever you're exiting Lightroom or, you know, on a rhythm of when you're exiting Lightroom, it'll prompt you to say, hey, do you want to back up this catalog really quick? It'll just make a second copy of it for you in case something goes wrong. File handling, you can tell, like I said, Lightroom is pointing to your photo, and what it does is it makes a preview of that photo for you. And this helps you then when you're going through the library module to like skim through files really quickly. And what you could do is make these preview cache sizes. See, standard preview size, I always have it on auto because I want it as big as possible. But if you're trying to make a really fast Lightroom catalog, you can make it as tiny as 1024 pixels. That's very small. So same thing in preview quality. You can have the highest you want or the lowest. That'll just make this a little bit like the actual photo a little bit fuzzy in the library module. When you go to the develop module, it'll be a lot sharper and everything will be fine. So I always have preview quality set to medium. That's a nice one for that. Automatically discard one-to-one previews. I don't even make one-to-one previews. What a one-to-one preview is it basically is like a carbon copy of your photo itself that Lightroom can display at the highest quality possible. And that's gonna really slow down your Lightroom catalog because it's making the preview as big as possible, as much data as possible. And while you're manipulating it, it's going to try to make this file be manipulated in real time, and it gets really, really slowly. And then of course you have like different things that you could do for your metadata as well. Here's the automatically write changes in XMP. When you have this selected, it makes a secondary file along with the data. So you have all the different stuff, which is pretty neat. So, but then that's kind of it for that whole deal, right? So also to create a catalog, you have the option of exporting as a catalog. So you can, so I know this with like wedding photographers do this a lot. I kind of feel like it's not necessary for a lot of photographers, but if you are a wedding photographer, it's kind of helpful because you don't normally go back and look at your older jobs unless you need to sometime down the road, right? But it's good for like archive and storage and organization. Is say this Miami skyline photo project was finished, right? And I'm good with it, I'm happy with it. I can right click it, export this folder as a catalog, And when I click on that, it'll give me a dialog much like normal, where I'm creating a catalog in whatever hard drive I specify. From there, it'll say exporting a catalog with these photos. So it moves all of these photos into that folder, into a photo folder with the catalog, the new catalog that it makes. You can then say export negative files. What'll happen is all of your original photos get moved into that, right? And then you could build smart previews automatically while you're doing that. So it kind of makes it like a carbon copy of what happened here. And of course, you're just including whatever the previews are. So you can have these two selected. You could have this one selected if you want like an identical go right over kind of situation. But I usually just have it like this if I'm going to do it. And then what'll happen is, like, say I could specify this now. This is the job name, 10/15, Miami Skyline Week Project, right? And then when I say export catalog, which I'm not going to do for this example, but it'll make its catalog with this title of those photos that, you know, you get all the details on, right? So this is good for like wedding photographers who have multiple weddings and, you know, maybe a couple want like a 5-year anniversary set of their photos again for something, and you have to go back. You can go back to a catalog with just their photos that works really, really fast because it's just their photos in that catalog. It's, you know, 660 is nothing, right? In a wedding sense, you could be having hundreds of thousands of photos in a catalog if you don't separate them, right? So it'll go forever. It'll take forever to load up and be ready to get, you know, 5 or 6 examples that you want. Whereas if you export it as a catalog, you can pull it up immediately and not worry about all the other photos that you would have to sift through. You just sift through that one particular wedding. So that's really good for that. It's also really good if you're brand new to making multiple catalogs and you want to just start moving everything over. You could do this import from another catalog to be a little more in control of what goes over, or you could just take this whole big folder and say export as a catalog and make a different catalog somewhere else. I would recommend you immediately get a catalog. Like if your catalog is on your computer's hard drive, I would immediately say make a new catalog on an external hard drive and move all that stuff in there, because it'll be like so much better for your computer hard drive's health and Lightroom's efficiency by having it in its own world on a separate hard drive. But that's kind of it for exporting catalogs. So we're going to go into how I have a workflow of these catalogs. So let's get rid of these example catalogs. Okay. Oh, and there's another one. So I have only 3 hard drives that I use for my Lightroom workflow. The first hard drive is this incoming catalog hard drive. It's its own catalog it's its own hard drive that I called the incoming catalog hard drive. The catalog is right here in its own folder called incoming catalog. You can see here's the catalog file, here's the data for that file. And then backups, like when the backups occur, they go in there. And that was that whole optimization, excuse me, sorry. That was that whole optimization backup that I was talking about a minute ago. My photos are in their own world. They're in their own hard drive folder set that I want. They're on the same hard drive just because that's how I like to organize it, but I could have this somewhere else and have this catalog point to that. It just doesn't make any sense why I wouldn't keep the same photos on the same hard drive. When I'm done with these, like the incoming photos, obviously they go through that whole 4-step process that I showed you in older videos called the Lightroom Classic Workflow that I have on my channel. When the incoming photos have been edited and gone through and exported and ready to be moved out, the ones I did not work on and are not finalized, I will put in the photo archive. Now the photo archive I have organized by year, and each year has the catalog and then the photos. So that's basically it. So this is the current year. catalog and its wonderful set of photos that I have right next to it. That's what goes in my photo archive hard drive. When I'm finished with the incoming photos and I've actually edited them and they're finalized and they've been exported and shared and I want to store them for future use, then I have a portfolio hard drive and it has its own catalog. Now if you notice there's two catalogs here. This one says V12, this one says V13. This is the latest and greatest version of Lightroom. Every so often you'll get an older one. Actually, can I do this? Can I just open this right now and see what that looks like? Just to show you an example here. If I open up the older version of the catalog, you'll see it's creating some preview files like it always does. And then it's going to say, hey, this catalog was previously upgraded. Would you like to use this upgraded catalog? And you can say, yeah, I want to use the newer one. But what happens is you get this like dialog box because, or like you'll normally get a dialog box to say, hey, this is an old version, we want to upgrade to here. I always keep the old version in case something went wrong with the newest one. I always keep one back. If 13 goes to 14, then I'll delete 12, if that makes sense. So anyway, this is my portfolio hard drive, and this is where all my photos are, and I literally have all 9 years of photos from 2015 to 2023, all 9 folders of the photos of the files in their organized way, which we'll probably make a video showing you how I organize my portfolio catalog, and also touch on like collections and stuff like that. But yeah, this is just the creating catalog. So that's my whole workflow. That's it. It's just incoming catalog, nice, makes everything work very fast because there's only like a handful of photos at a time that I'm processing and going through. So it's the fastest humanly possible. And it's on its own hard drive for speed as well. Then whatever I did not edit, but I still want to hold on to, gets moved into the current year's catalog, right? And then when I'm done editing with these incoming photos, I then put it into the portfolio. And the portfolio catalog holds on to it for like storage and reference and stuff like that. So getting ready to be worked on, unfinished photos I can't delete, and photos that I am finished with and obviously want to keep for good. And that's it. So that is my entire Lightroom catalog organization. I would recommend doing something like this where you have an incoming workflow catalog separate from your storage catalogs. The photo archive catalog set that I have it stored by year because I don't use the photo archive that much. So I can have smaller catalogs where I access them later kind of situation. In fact, if we go to 2015, you can see version 11 was the last time I looked at this Lightroom catalog. So when I click on this, it's going to ask me to upgrade it for sure. But yeah, it's kind of one of those things where this just gets stored in case I need it. This is my actual referenced archive that I look at all the time. And this is my default one that I always leave open because I'm going to work on my photos that are brand new that I just photographed. So that's kind of it. That's the whole Lightroom catalog creation. I hope that this was helpful. I hope you like pick, external hard drives that are fast, like some good fast external hard drives, maybe some solid state hard drives will be good for speed, that are a good size that you could then store and archive stuff. And this will help you on a lot of things. This will help you back up your files a lot easier because they're separated, so they're smaller. This will help you find photos a lot faster because I've stored this, let's see, I shot this in 2023, right? So it can go in here. And here's my events. So here's my events that I shot, just things that were fun to do at the time. So, and I have them all organized by year, month, date. So then it goes all the way down as well. So there's a lot of fun, like, organization that you can do here and be able to separate things. And it all starts with creating separate catalogs. All right, and that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this Lightroom catalog workflow. It's not too hard. It just gets a little bit confusing when you're trying to first establish everything. But once this setup is established, you have a nice little system to work through. If you want to learn more about Lightroom Catalog as a whole, go ahead and check out all 4 parts of my Lightroom Catalog workflow series that I have. Kind of a long-winded series on that. And we're going to keep touching on other cool little features in Lightroom Classic and what to do with all this stuff in future videos. So if you do like this, by all means, give me a like, drop me a comment and say how you feel about this or if you have any questions. And also, don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more Lightroom Classic workflow stuff that we can play around with. And yeah, if you're even more interested in some other stuff that I'm doing, go ahead and check out my Instagram files right here. I have 3 of them. I have like a portrait one, a nature one, and an aircraft one. Also, go ahead and follow my website that I'll place right here. But yeah, that's kind of it. I hope you enjoyed the Lightroom catalog creation, the whole workflow process, and you can implement this into your own Lightroom workflow. Have a good one.